Challenges with creating reports with a running total are now a thing of the past, my friend. Welcome to Quickbase Junkie. I help Quickbase builders learn fast to deliver more. For this example, I'll be using an app from the App Exchange called the CRM Starter. So if you'd like to follow along, you can go ahead and download that now. We'll be focused here on the opportunities table. On this table, we have a list of opportunities and their amount in dollars. What I want to be able to do is create a running total of that amount based on the projected close date of the opportunity. So if I have that close date listed from high to low, I can see the running total of the amount sort of coming up, adding those values all together at the top. Traditionally, this has been nearly impossible in Quickbase, even with summary reports, to have it sorted in this order. But that's where formula queries come in super handy. Our formula query will work by essentially taking the values from each record, comparing the dates, and then summing the value for anything that is less than or equal to that particular date. This means that our query will need two pieces of information, both the amount and the close date. So let's head into our fields and get the field IDs for amount, that's number 7, and the close date, that's number 15. With those two pieces of information, we can begin writing our query. I've already created a formula numeric field for the running total. I like to separate the query string into a variable. This way it's easier to view and troubleshoot. I'll start by defining the variable. This query will be a text string, and I'll just call it query. All of our queries will be in a set of double quotes and a set of curly brackets. Within this set of curly brackets, we define that query. We'll begin with our close date. That was field ID number 15. We'll separate that from our operator with a period, and then the operator we want to use in this case is on or before, OBF. Separate that again with a period, and then in a set of single quotations, we'll include the actual close date. And because this is a field reference, I'll need to separate it with an ampersand and then pull in that close date. Another ampersand, and then this ending text string with that single quote and our curly bracket. So what this query states is, give me a list of records where field ID 15 is on or before the close date of this record that I'm currently on. If you want more information about writing queries, check out my video and post called Query Writing 101. Now with my query written, I can get into my formula functions. For this use case, we want to be summing the values. So we'll include SumValues and then our GetRecords function. To this GetRecords function, we'll include our query. If I was querying another table, after this, I would include the table ID. As an alternative, we could also use the table alias. But because I am on the same table, I actually don't need to include this. I'll go ahead and remove this since we don't need it for this use case. But what we do need is just outside of that closing parenthesis for GetRecords is the field we're summing. This is field ID number 7, the amount. So the query and the GetRecords gives us that list, and then 7 tells us which field to sum up those values. There is a change that we will be making to this, so make sure to keep watching, but I want to show you what we have so far. Heading back, I'm going to create a new report. I'll call it my running total. Go ahead and set it to my defaults, but now I want to include that running total just next to amount. Then the important thing here is that I want to set my sort order. I don't want it sorting on opportunity name or the date it was modified. I want to sort from high to low by my close date. And just in case we have any records that are closing on the same date, I want to sort from high to low by record ID. And save. Now with my new report, we can see those values coming up from the bottom, right? 270, now we're adding 15, now we're adding 170, now we're adding 154,500. Each row is adding to the next. Fantastic. But what should happen if I have two records that have the same close date? I'll grid edit so we can see what happens. We'll make both of these the 10th. Now we've got a problem because it's adding all of them up through that date, which is not great, right? It's not really an accurate depiction of a running total if those land on the same date. So we need to make some additional adjustments. I'll jump back into my formula, and we'll need to create a tiebreaker. In order to do that, I'm going to change this first query to just query 1, and this will be just before. Give me a list of every record that comes before this record. And then I'll add a second query. Go ahead and copy this first one, where the close date's the same date, but then add an additional query. The additional query says that if the record ID, which is field ID number 3, is less than or equal to the record ID that I'm on, then include it in my list. We'll update this to now reference query 1, and we'll add that to query 2. As an alternative, we could also string these two queries together using the OR operator. Just be sure to include the parentheses to indicate the order of operation. This looks great. Since this is a running total, we don't want to display the total on the report, and let's go ahead and make this set for currency. In addition to this, there's likely one more adjustment to our formula, but let's see what we have so far. Great, we've got a running total and we fixed that issue where they landed on the same date. There's one problem, one big fat glaring problem. Our very first record does not have a value. Now that's because it did not find any records with a date that came before its date. Therefore, the result was null and the whole formula essentially turned null. To avoid this null issue, we can use another little function called nz. nz basically says if this comes back null, use this value instead. This way it can return a 0 instead of null for our formula. And save. Beautiful. Every line item has a value. Very important how we set that sort order on this report and those additional changes that we made to the formula, including the 2 different queries. This particular use case may not be the best for a running total. If you have something where you've got a number of transactions perhaps being added and subtracted and you want to see that running balance, this is a wonderful way to do it. If you liked this video, there's a whole lot more going on over at quickbasejunkie.com/training. And when you're ready, I'll see you in the first lesson. If you found this video helpful, let me know. Hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Bye for now.